Peer-to-peer learning is one of those buzz phrases beloved of senior management teams.
It's not always just something coming down from top. You know, we've been encouraging our own staff to actually develop their own teaching styles and then to disseminate that to other staff.
And it's an attractive theory. At King Edward VI Secondary School in Morpeth near Newcastle, the theory does seem to have translated into an effective tool for continuing professional development for the staff.
Staff still go out on courses, and courses are important, but most of staff's CPD time is spent in school, learning from each other.
Here, teachers take the role of mentors.
So it's trying to get rid of that low-level disruption that they've got at the minute.
And of coaches.
Is there anything specifically that you think might be a reason why they're perhaps not so much engaged, not contributing so much in that activity?
They video each other.
Why isn't he afraid of Malcolm?
To improve their own teaching techniques. This programme looks at how an informal mentoring scheme can help second and third year teachers once the intensive support of an NQT year fades away, and how a coaching system encourages staff to grow with the support and active intervention of their own colleagues. We'll also show you how the bank of programmes at the Teachers TV website can be used to help you take the initiative in your CPD and develop your peer-to-peer learning skills. More details later. One area of CPD that King Edward VI focus on strongly is second and third year teachers.
A few years ago we realised that the second and third year teachers in schools were kind of almost dropping off the edge. They were very much supported through their NQT year, but when they got into the second year the support seemed to disappear. So we've since set up an early professional development programme for teachers in their second and third years.
These teachers meet monthly, taking it in turns to chair the sessions. Ideas that emerge are fed back to senior management, and as part of the programme, they're encouraged to mentor an NQT. It not only aims to support the new teacher, but is also designed to help the second and third years to develop their skills. Third year economics teacher Rebecca has been paired up with science NQT Laura.
How are you? Are you getting on okay?
Yeah, everything's okay. This half term has been a little bit easier than last term, I think. A bit more organised, a bit more into it this time, I think. So, but there's still this one pesky group.
Oh, you're still having problems with the year 10 class?
Yeah, they're a set 2, so they're in the middle of sets at the moment, and I think the way they've been grouped, there's just too many noisy boys in the group and too many kind of big characters.
Yeah.
It's quite nice to have somebody who I can go to who isn't actually part of assessing me for my induction year, so I don't feel as though I'm being judged or assessed in any kind of way when I talk about what's going wrong, basically. And it's also nice that she's not too far into her career as well, so she can remember what it was like 2 or 3 years ago being an NQT, so she can pass on lots of hints and tips that work for her.
Maybe seems to quite work with boys is that they get steered on by competition and competitive environment. So maybe you could have a league table on the wall and you could put them all into maybe groups of 4. And then if like one group listened better than the other group, then they could get a mark off you. Right. And then you could have a competition where at the end of each, maybe at the end of 4 weeks or at the end of each half term, the group with the most marks could get a prize off you.
Yeah, so take it away from the individual and kind of make it more kind of team. So they're not letting themselves down, they're letting a team down. That's a good idea.
We'll find that those members of staff are actually quite often as able as any other member of staff to really give some good advice and some good guidance.
For me, it's quite useful being with Laura and actually helping her. It gives you an experience of, like, not so much management responsibility, but actually dealing with somebody and helping somebody else out of your problems. And it's something that's actually going to benefit you and benefit your teaching. And especially if you actually create like a really colourful chart on the wall so they can actually see the progress they're making and they can measure themselves against other groups, and then they'll be saying, oh, we're not doing as good as that group, let's see if we can do it. One
of the benefits of it is that over the last 2 years since we've been running this programme, a lot of the second and third year teachers have actually moved on to promotion within the school.
The school is equally proactive in other areas of CPD.
That's good. It's lovely weather, isn't it? It's good. Yeah.
For a number of years at the school we had a peer observation programme where staff were encouraged to go and observe each other teach. But it was quite difficult to monitor, and it was quite difficult to get all staff involved in that. So what we decided to do 2 years ago, we decided to actually go down the route of coaching.
The school set up a teaching and learning team comprised of 9 staff who were trained to take on the role of coaches. The team was headed up by Paul Johnson. We took a look at him coaching Head of English, Liam Murter.
We're just meeting now to be able to talk about what you'd like the specific focus of this coaching cycle to be. So perhaps can...
Coaching is owned by the person being coached. They decide what is the objective of any observation.
We're looking at Macbeth, and I asked her who Macduff was, and she said she didn't know, and I thought it came as a bit of a bombshell because we just spent, the lesson, we spend, 5-6 weeks on Macbeth. But I'm just thinking, crumbs, are people getting sort of, left out for some reason? Are they, for some reason, not sort of engaging with the activities? So what I'd like you to do, I'd like you sort of to come and see what I'm doing and to see what we could do together to improve.
So what you're saying is it's about their contribution to lessons.
Exactly. It's everybody, seeing everybody in the lesson, everybody being involved. What were we looking at yesterday? Yes, Ben? To see Macbeth was a good leader. So in talking about leaders, we were really talking about what, Alex?
Features of a good leader.
Yes, leadership, the features of a good leader, precisely. It's good to have a fresh pair of eyes on what you're doing. Being a teacher, I mean, a lot of the time is spent in the classroom, alone, and to actually get someone else in the room with you, filming you, is really extremely useful.
Lessons are filmed and the tapes used for debriefing.
It can be absolutely astonishing to see yourself on video, to see some of the things that you are doing, to see things that you just simply don't notice when you are actually standing at the front of a classroom teaching. But if we just watch a couple of clips, I just wanted to show you something that I noticed about 1 or 2 of them, if that's okay.
Great.
Yeah.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to sculpt the image of a good leader. Okay? So, for example, the first thing I say is you want to stand up straight, Oliver. Shoulders back. And now what sort of expression should be on Oliver's face if he's a good leader? Yes, Ollie?
Dignified.
Dignified expression. So, explain to Oliver how he's got to do a dignified expression.
A gentle smile with confident eyes.
So, I mean, you can see, as we've just been playing, we've got this lad over here and this girl who were a couple of the ones that we were talking about. And one of the things I did notice is that at this point, which was earlier in the lesson when they were active standing up and so on, that they were very much involved.
Well, that was a conscious decision, I mean, doing in pairs and getting them to stand up and to sort of all have a sort of role.
If I just skip forward and show you the other clip.
We're comparing Malcolm and Macbeth. Now, on those post-its, you've got 5 minutes, OK? I would like you to write 2 facts, 2 things you know about those characters, and then 2 quotations that show that thing about those characters. Because you're comparing leadership, comparing Malcolm and Macbeth. One of the things is leadership. So, quotations maybe that show Macbeth isn't a good leader from Act 5, Scene 3.
And this is the activity where you're asking them to fill in the post-it notes. And he's sitting there. And he's sitting there. And he's just sitting there. He's not... and like you say, he's not doing an awful lot at all.
I think Macbeth is very evil. This is shown by the way he speaks to the servant. That'd be a tick. I'll give that a 1. Tick.
Is there anything specifically that you think might be a reason why they're perhaps not so much engaged, not contributing so much in that activity?
That activity isn't as much fun, and it requires sort of slightly higher level thinking skills.
We use a model called the GROW model. What that means is that we start by looking at his goal, what it is he wants to achieve, what he would like to try and have his lessons look like. What we then try and do is to establish what the reality is, and that's the R in GROW. And part of that was involving me going into do an observation.
In what ways could you compare the characters Malcolm and Macbeth? I'm going to give you 6 minutes. And you may not be able to make 5 points, because I'm actually going to give you a bit slightly longer than that. Okay, but I'd like you to make as many different points you can.
We then moved on to the kind of options, the options section of the coaching model, which basically meant that I was asking him to come up with some different ideas as to how he could actually move from the position that he's in at the moment to the position that he'd like to be in. What would you like to see if you could have your kind of perfect lesson? What would you like to be seeing happening?
Maybe, thinking about it, he found it difficult to access the set scenes, and if the LSA had bits from the text to sort of then hand to people to use a sort of prompt, and that would be a really good way to use the LSA.
They'd have to work on me hard though, won't you?
And say, do you need help to find it hard? How about this one?
The W is really just win commitment. The idea being that he basically chooses what it is he's going to put into practice, when he's going to put it into practice, and we agree a time that we can actually then follow that up. And hopefully what we then do is move on and go into another coaching cycle. So the GROW model basically is goal, reality, options, and then win commitment. Okay, so we've got a couple of different ideas there. Is there anything that you think perhaps which one of those you think you could perhaps put into place
I like the
in
use
the near
of the
future?
LSA. I think that's that way to further use the LSA to make a sort of make it more involved in the lesson. When I was initially told that that they were going to record the lessons, I mean, obviously you feel slightly nervous, but I think with the coaching programme and the video of the lesson, when you do coaching, the coach doesn't comment, doesn't give their opinions on actually what they thought of the lesson.
In fact, that's the major difference between coaching and mentoring. Mentoring is about having a more experienced teacher, being able to give guidance and offer advice to a more junior member of staff, perhaps someone who's new to the profession. Whereas coaching is quite different. A coach doesn't need to be an expert in the subjects that they are coaching somebody on. What they need to be able to do is to be able to understand how coaching works and to be able to listen, ask questions, and be able to work through the coaching process with them in a way that allows them to reflect on their own practice. And that idea of reflection is the secret to it. Maybe that's something that we could talk about and just see how things have gone, if that is something that you've been using, and whether or not you've actually found that it's worked.
It's quite important to stress that there isn't an extra budget for any of this that goes on. In some cases, teachers may ask for cover to cover a class to do a coaching session, but in the vast majority of cases, staff are actually doing this in the non-contact time and seeing the benefit of it. And they're actually, a coaching cycle, if done properly, probably takes about 3 hours of your time. But I'd like to think that the vast majority of staff realise that that's 3 hours very well spent. I think the best way to start something off like cross-school coaching is probably to start small and start with a small committed team of staff that really want to take it forward. And then bit by bit, the rest of the staff hopefully see the benefits of it and want to get involved.
There are now more than 1,000 programmes on the Teachers TV website. And you can use the search facility to find other programmes that may help with your CPD. For example, see how another peer observation system works in a primary school. There are also lots of other approaches to CPD. Click on the video button on the home page and use the categories on the left to find the programmes you're looking for.